Hello friends from the fog. Today I want to discuss some chapters that I wish were included in Dead by Daylight. We go in order from the least likely to the most likely to make to the game.
Fool, you have learned nothing. Chaos is unknowable, unpredictable. You are in no way prepared to stop the pain you will endure.
Let's start with Mortal Kombat. Created by Ed Boon and John Tobias in 1992, this franchise is the one most influential in game history. While not a horror franchise per se, it incorporates plenty of horror elements, and it is quite bloody. Using the killer could be quite tricky because there's so many iconic options, but I would pick Shao Kahn, especially the classic Kahn version, not the General Shao from the MK1. As for his powers, I'm not entirely sure, but something centered around the endurance and his brute strength would fit well. Like, not necessarily the Mori itself, but like, imagine you doing the Mori as Shao Kahn and the narrator voice saying, "Finish him," and then you destroy the survivor with your hammer. I think that this would be a very nice addition to the game. Selection survivor is tough though, but my picks would be Kitana and Liu Kang. In this case, legendary skins could offer a fantastic range of characters as well. Let us play with many of our favorites. For the map, I think that Shang Tsung Island could be quite nice, or maybe even the Shao Kahn Fortress, because it has a very nice architecture and a very sinister vibe. Now, as much as I love Mortal Kombat in Dead by Daylight, I don't think that would actually happen, because I think that would be quite a challenge, because currently Warner Brothers are the ones that own the rights to the franchise, and they also hold the rights to A Nightmare on Elm Street, and we all know that it wasn't very easy for Behavior to acquire the license, so getting the Mortal Kombat IP could also be quite challenging, and for now I think that we won't be seeing anytime soon, at least in the foreseeable future, which is very sad because I really like this franchise. Next on our list is Game of Thrones / A Song of Ice and Fire. For this chapter, I will focus on the series adaptation, Game of Thrones. Both the books and the series are set in a fantasy world and is a franchise known for his complex political intrigue and deep characters and unpredictable plot twists. When it comes to the killer, we have a few options, but the most obvious choice is the Night King. As for his powers, it's a bit more challenging, because he is the necromancer, and translating that into the game could be quite tricky. He also has the ability to summon the winter, which can work like a visibility reduction effect, similar with the Dread Nightfall. For the survivor, I think that Jon Snow is a clear choice, as he is one of the main protagonists of the series, and he's also the one who fought the Night King the most. Additionally, several characters could be featured as a legendary skin, like Daenerys Targaryen for example, and even characters from House of the Dragon. Now, regarding the map, I think that Game of Thrones offers several iconic locations, but to align with the killer and the survivor, I think that it should be Hardhome or Winterfell. Now, as for the possibility of including this IP in Dead by Daylight, similar with the Mortal Kombat situation, Warner Brothers holds the rights to the show, so it would be quite difficult for Behavior to acquire this license. However, Behavior could potentially license the books instead, but it would be less ideal as the characters like Night King haven't fully been introduced in the novels. I don't really think they even have in the novels the Night King, and it would have the same impact. So this is why I think that this IP is a bit difficult to appear in the game. Who doesn't love those lovely little creatures? This is the only chapter in this list that I can see coming as a paragraph. With the introduction of a shorter killer like Chucky, a new possibility has opened for short stature killers. One of them is the Gremlins. The original idea for the movie Gremlins came from British folktales about mischievous little creatures that would sabotage aircraft during World War II. The first movie released in 1984 and introduced us to the Mogwai and its rules, which are: keep them away from sunlight because it will kill them, don't get them wet because they will multiply, and the most important, never feed them after midnight because they will turn into the malevolent gremlins. The killers, of course, would be the gremlins, and their powers should revolve around their mischievous natures and ability to tamper with things. Imagine a power that allows you to sabotage generators, pallets, and even exit gates. Additionally, there should be more than one gremlin in the trial, as their rapid multiplication is a defining characteristic. In my opinion, this chapter could easily stand on its own, just with a killer, but if you were to include a survivor, I think that Billy Pelton and perhaps even Gizmo in some form. I just want the Rumble Gizmo in the game. And this is the type of chapter that wouldn't necessarily need a map, so I did include it here. Now, can this chapter ever come to the game? And the answer is unlikely, as Gremlins is a Warner Brothers IP, and you know the Warner Brothers franchises are less likely to appear in the game due to their licensing issues, as I've mentioned before. Of course, now things seem to be changing right now, because now, for example, we have it seems that a lot of DC content is appearing on Fortnite. So I think that Warner Brothers might be changing their tactics, so who knows, right? But for now, I don't think that it is possible. However, Behavior could do an original chapter based on the folklore. So they often do that. They get a myth or a legend and they do their own version of it. The Friday the 13th franchise is easily one of the most sought after additions to Dead by Daylight community. Friday the 13th is an iconic slasher movie series known for his masked killer, Jason Voorhees. The plots of these movies typically revolve around a group of camp counselors being hunted and killed by Jason at Camp Crystal Lake in most films. Dead by Daylight is often seen as the Hall of Fame for the horror movies, features some of the most famous villains in the genre. However, the absence of Jason Voorhees makes the game feel incomplete to many fans, me included. As for Jason's potential power in the game, it could be something inspired by his resilience, or his ability to mysteriously teleport, as seen in the movies. Also, his brute force could fit well with the gameplay, and the survivor could be Tommy Jarvis, and the map, of course, Camp Crystal Lake. Now, can this franchise ever come to Dead by Daylight? And the answer is both yes and no. And a full chapter is unlikely because the rise of Friday the 13th is scattered around among different entities, so licensing Jason individually is more plausible scenario. In this case, Behavior would need to work with New Line Cinema, which is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers.
Damn it!
Additionally, the Jason Universe initiative, which aims to revive the franchise through licensing, increases the chance and possibility of Jason being added to Dead by Daylight. However, Friday the 13th is a licensing nightmare, so only time will tell if that will actually ever happen. Stranger Things was without a doubt the most successful franchise in Dead by Daylight, so why not repeat the success? The first chapter was launched in 2019. Since then, many characters have been introduced in the show. One of them is Vecna. Vecna, also known as Henry Crew, is a malevolent man born with extraordinary abilities, who was banished to the Upside Down by Eleven. His contact with the Twisted Realm transformed him into the creature known as Vecna. Vecna would be a great addition to Dead by Daylight since he is not currently in the game.
Are you fucking blind?
I mean, we do have the original Vecna though, as Stranger Things monsters were all inspired by Dungeons and Dragons monsters. So to make this less confusing, let's call the Netflix Vecna Henry. Henry Crew would make an excellent killer in DBD, and yes, he would be a completely different killer rather than a Vecna skin, as these two characters are distinct entities with different powers. Speaking of powers, could be tied to his ability to enter the minds of his victims. Now, translating that to the game, however, would be a real challenge. I imagine using the Upside Down as part of his power, and it would be something similar to the Void mechanic that we saw on the Halloween event. And just like the first DLC, this one would come with 2 survivors. I'm not sure who the second survivor would be, but one of them would definitely be 11. As for the map, it wouldn't necessarily need to include a new one. I think that rework version of Hawkins would be just fine. However, if you were to have a new map, I think that any location in the Upside Down would be amazing. Now, can we expect a part 2 of this chapter? And honestly, I don't think so. And the reason is entirely different from what we have seen in the other entries. Let's address the elephant in the room, or in this case, the Mind Flayer. We all remember that Stranger Things was the first chapter to be removed from the game, which was a quite depressing moment for the community. And 2 years later, it returned. Most likely because Netflix reevaluated its strategy for licensed content in games. As Dead by Daylight is not an isolated case, Fortnite not only brought back the Stranger Things content, but also introduced new material as well. The thing is, we really don't know how was the relationship between Netflix and Behavior during the period between November 2021 and November 2023. So we don't really know what the future holds. In the event that Netflix decides to revoke the license again, we could potentially lose 4 survivors, 2 killers, a map, and a handful of cosmetics. Such situation would not sit well with the public. For this reason, I think that Behavior would choose to play safe and avoid releasing any additional Stranger Things content.
3 billion human lives ended on August 29, 1997. The survivors of the nuclear fire called the war Judgment Day. They lived only to face a new nightmare, the war against the machines.
From now on, we'll be looking at IPs that I believe have a real possibility in appearing in this game. Starting with the Terminator. The Terminator is a science fiction action series centered on the conflict between humanity and Skynet, an artificial intelligence that seeks to exterminate humanity. Very understandable. The franchise explores themes as artificial intelligence, time travel, and the consequences of technology on society. The villain of the first movie, T-800, played by none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger. For this reason, I don't think that he would be the killer. This leaves us with 2 options, a generic 800 exoskeleton or the menacing T-1000, which I think would be a better choice. When it comes to the survivors, the obvious picks would be Sarah Connor and possibly John Connor. This chapter might not necessarily come with a map, but if he did, a map set in the post-apocalyptic future would be a great addition to the game. Now, can this IP have a chance to appear in Dead by Daylight? Honestly, I think so, as Behavior has already collaborated with this franchise in their other game known as Death Garden. You might be asking yourself, what is Death Garden? It's essentially DBD with guns. In that game, there was a T-800 skin for one of the characters. As you may have imagined, Death Garden was a huge flop, which might pose some sort of a challenge in reacquiring this franchise. There are some reasons to be optimistic. This collaboration happened back in 2019, and since then, Dead by Daylight has grown significantly in popularity, which might help to reacquiring this license again.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Next on our list is the TV show The Boys. The Boys is a popular American superhero television series based on the comic book series of the same name by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. The show has developed by Eric Kripke and premiered in Amazon Prime Video in July 2019. The story is set in a world where superheroes or supes are real and controlled by a powerful corporation called Vought International. These heroes, often corrupt, egotistical, and morally flawed, exploit their powers for fame and personal gain. The obvious choice for a killer would be Homelander, while Billy Butcher would make a great survivor. Back Noir skin for Legion would be nice too. As for the map, Vought Tower could be an excellent setting. Now, can this IP ever come to the game? And the answer is quite possibly yes. Amazon has shown no hesitation in licensing its IPs, especially since it serves as a way to promote their shows. Examples include collaborations with Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Mortal Kombat. Licensing itself wouldn't be an issue. The real challenge lies in whether would fit into Dead by Daylight, and how to implement Homelander's powers in a balanced and source-faithful way. Homelander is essentially a psychotic Superman. He can fly, he has super senses, laser vision, and much more. Adding him in a way that makes sense is a real challenge for this hypothetical chapter. Not only Homelander, but Omni-Man from Invincible would have this problem as well.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
Now we are getting to special territory. These next entries are personally my favorites, and the ones I believe are most likely to appear in the game. Star Wars is a popular sci-fi franchise created by George Lucas in 1977. It is set in a galaxy far, far away, blending elements of space opera, adventure, and myth. The core story follows the conflict between the Jedi and peacekeeping warriors who use the Force for good and the Sith who use the Force for evil. Although Star Wars isn't exactly in a great place right now, it still remains one of my favorite IPs by far. So it's safe to say that a chapter about it would be fantastic. The killer is plain and simple, Darth Vader. Although this franchise has a plethora of villains that could work just fine in the game, Darth Vader is the one of the most iconic villains in pop culture, making him an obvious choice. His powers could be anything related to the Force, like a Force push, Force pull, Force choke, and maybe even his ability to throw the lightsaber. The survivors are also straightforward. The main trio, Luke, Leia, and Han. Two of them could be survivors, while the other a legendary skin. Unfortunately, I don't think that Chewie will make the cut, as he is huge. However, many other characters could be released as legendary skins later on. The map is a more difficult choice, as there are so many options. Jabba's Palace, Bespin, Hoth, and Tantive 4. However, the most likely and best pick, in my opinion, is the Death Star. The Death Star is the most popular location in the franchise and is closely tied to the killer. Now, can this IP come to the game? I think so. I believe that just a matter of time before this happens, as Behavior and Disney seems to have a good relationship. This is evident from the fact that they released a new Alien collection just a month ago, so it's really just a question of time.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park is a science fiction adventure franchise based on the novel by Michael Crichton. The story explored the consequences of cloning dinosaurs using the ancient DNA and bringing them back to life in the modern era. Later on, Jurassic World expanded the concept by showcasing a fully operational dinosaur park and the broader implications of integrating dinosaurs into the modern world. The first question we need to ask is, which era would this chapter focus on it? Jurassic Park or Jurassic World? Let's assume that it focuses on Jurassic Park, as it seems the most likely scenario. With that in mind, the most logical choice for the game is the Velociraptor, particularly the big one, the leader of the pack in the first movie. While the T-Rex could be a fantastic addition, I think it would be a bit difficult to put in the game. The Velociraptor, on the other hand, is an iconic choice, offering a potential for a great chase power, and also a wide variety of skins. The Survivor or a easy pick, Dr. Alice Settler, Dr. Ian Malcolm, and Dr. Alan Grant. Just like the Star Wars chapter, that would be 2 survivors and 1 legendary skin, with other skins being added in the future. Since we are focusing on the Jurassic Park, the Visitor Center is the most fitting map, and it is the location where the finale of the first movie happened, and you can even include the kitchen section in the map. And this because this type of chapter would absolutely need a map. Now, what are the odds of this franchise coming to the game? In my opinion, quite high, as behavior has a good relation with Universal, as you can see in the fact that they released a Chucky skin recently, which is also a Universal property. It's likely just a matter of time. There's even rumors that this chapter could be released in the next year in August, although nothing concrete has been confirmed. There's also the fact that new movies coming next year, so they might want to capitalize on that as well.
You one ugly motherfucker.
Now we arrive at the final entry in our list, the intergalactic hunter known as the Predator. The Predator franchise is a very popular series of science fiction action films centered around the fictional extraterrestrial species known as the Predator or Yautja. These creatures are technologically advanced, highly skilled hunters who travel across the galaxy seeking worthy prey. This series is renowned for its intense action and survival horror elements, and the occasional crossover with the Alien franchise, a very important topic that will be discussed later in the video. The killer, of course, is the Predator. As for its power, well, that's a tricky topic that we'll be discussing later on. The only thing I can say is that the amount of skins that this killer can have is no joke. This is the kind of chapter that could simply stand on its own as a solo killer, but if you were to have a survivor, I think that Dutch is the obvious choice. If there were to be a map, I think that jungle map would be quite nice as well. Now, on to the more complicated part. Can this IP come to the game? It depends. As a solo killer, absolutely. As a full chapter, however, it becomes more challenging because of the survivor. Dutch, the protagonist of the first movie, is played by none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the most famous actors in Hollywood. Getting his likeness would be quite difficult. You could argue that Dutch doesn't need to resemble Arnold at all, but I would strongly disagree with you, because for me it would be quite disappointing, just like the Ripley situation in the Alien chapter. It would be better to feature just a Predator than having the Predator and a generic version of Dutch, at least in my opinion. The other challenge is the power. The Predator has countless pieces of equipment which offers plenty of options, but the main issue is how to translate that into the game. The powers need to make sense for the character, need to be balanced, and most importantly, fun. Additionally, it needs to be original. For example, the Predator can turn invisible, so can Wraith. The Predator has an excellent tracking, so is cool marching. Ultimately, this could lead us to the Dracula situation, where the character borrows elements from other killers. This can make him very versatile, like Dracula, or very underwhelming. Other than these concerns, I don't see any other issue that would jeopardize the arrival of this chapter in the game. As I already mentioned, Disney and Behavior have a strong relationship, and there's even an Alien vs Predator skin for the Xenomorph, so it's just a matter of time, really. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and put on comments below what are chapters that you want in the game. So see you everyone, bye!